Have you ever stood in your garage, looked at your car keys and thought, maybe it's time to let it go? I did, and let me tell you, giving up my car at 70 seemed like the right thing to do. My daughter was thrilled. My neighbors patted me on the back, and I felt responsible, like I was making the safe choice. But not long after, reality hit. There I was, standing in the rain, waiting for a ride that was supposed to show up 15 minutes ago. Grocery bags digging into my fingers, cold seeping into my knees, and me wondering why I ever gave up that beautiful little piece of freedom that used to sit in my driveway. That was the day I started to regret it. Not because I couldn't live without a car, but because I didn't have to give it up yet. I just didn't know there were things I could have done to keep driving safely. So if you've been wondering whether it's time to hang up your keys, or if someone in your life is nudging you toward that decision before you feel ready, stick with me here. We're going to talk about 5 simple, realistic ways to keep driving safely, confidently, and with peace of mind, no matter what the calendar says about your age. Now, this isn't about pretending we're 25 again and zipping around in convertibles like we're in a car commercial. Let's be honest, my knees would protest that idea before the ignition even turned on. But it is about staying sharp, making smart choices, and holding on to the independence that driving gives us. Let's start with something simple, but powerful. I call it listening to your body, like really listening. Not just when it's screaming at you after climbing stairs, but the little things. For me, it was my reaction time. I noticed I wasn't snapping to attention at green lights like I used to. My foot didn't always find the brake as fast as it once did. It wasn't a dramatic thing, no near misses, no scary moments. Just a quiet realization that I wasn't quite as quick as I remembered being. But instead of giving up my car entirely, I found ways to work with my body. For starters, I stopped driving at night unless it was absolutely necessary. The glare from headlights, the shadows, ugh. It's like trying to read the fine print on a medicine bottle without your glasses. I also started giving myself a bit more time to react. I mean, who says you have to be the first off the line when the light turns green? Let those speed demons behind you honk all they want. You're not in a race. You're in control. The second thing I want to talk about, and this one might surprise you, is posture. Yep, good old posture. Turns out how you sit in your car can change everything. I used to slump just a bit, you know? It was comfortable, but I realized that little slouch was making it harder to see clearly over the dashboard, reach the mirrors, and even turn my neck properly when checking blind spots. So I made a few changes. Got myself a proper seat cushion with lumbar support, adjusted the steering wheel, and made sure the mirrors were aligned so I didn't have to crane my neck like a flamingo every time I backed out of the driveway. And let me tell you, those small adjustments made me feel like I was in command of the car again. Not just along for the ride, but beyond all that, I started stretching more. Nothing fancy, just loosening up my neck and shoulders a bit before driving. You'd be amazed how much easier it is to look over your shoulder when your body isn't stiff as a board. And if anyone saw me doing shoulder rolls in the parking lot before getting in the car, well, I just waved and smiled. Let them think I'm eccentric. I'd rather be eccentric and mobile than stiff and stuck at home. The third thing, and this one took some humility, is brushing up on the rules of the road. I mean, who hasn't been driving for decades and thought, I know what I'm doing? But the truth is, things change. New signs, new traffic patterns, new rules about roundabouts. Don't even get me started on those. It's like someone thought, let's make driving feel like a game of musical chairs. So I signed up for a senior driving refresher course. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to feel confident again. And it wasn't boring, I swear. In fact, it was kind of fun. There were other folks there just like me. Folks who wanted to keep their independence without taking unnecessary risks. We laughed, we shared stories, and we all walked away feeling a little sharper. And you know what? After that course, I realized that most of what we need to stay safe isn't about age, it's about awareness. Being honest with ourselves, staying informed, and being willing to make small changes when needed. So far, we've talked about listening to your body, improving posture, and brushing up on the rules. None of that requires you to be a superhero. Just a little awareness, a bit of humility, and maybe a dash of humor to keep things light. I don't want anyone watching this to feel like they've missed their chance to keep driving. Because if I had known then what I know now, I probably would have held on to those keys just a little longer. And not for the sake of pride, but for the sake of picking up a grandkid on a rainy day, running to the store without coordinating someone's schedule, or just taking a drive to clear my head when the house feels too quiet. All right, I've shared the first few things that made a big difference for me, so let's keep going, because there's still more to share, especially the things I wish someone had told me before I gave up my car. Now, one thing I learned a little too late is how much your vision impacts your confidence behind the wheel. And I don't just mean getting a yearly checkup, though that's definitely important. I'm talking about truly understanding how your eyes are changing as you age, and how to work with those changes, not fight them. See, I thought my glasses were doing the job just fine. I could read, I could watch TV, no big complaints. But it wasn't until I noticed myself hesitating at stop signs or squinting to read road signs that I realized something was off. And I don't know about you, but squinting at a sign that says one way is not exactly the moment I want to be unsure. So I went back to the eye doctor and, surprise, my prescription had changed more than I realized. They also told me about special lenses that reduce glare, which was a game changer for night driving. Now, I won't lie, they weren't cheap. But if a pair of glasses means I can drive comfortably and safely for a few more years, worth every penny. I also started cleaning my windshield and mirrors more obsessively than ever before. I mean, isn't it funny how we clean our glasses 5 times a day, but forget our car windows are just as important for seeing clearly? A little smudge might not seem like a big deal until it's catching the sun at just the wrong angle, and suddenly you can't see a thing. It's the little stuff that adds up, you know? And speaking of little stuff, let's talk about distractions. Now, I know we always think of distracted driving as a young people problem. Kids texting, blasting music, doing who knows what behind the wheel. But let's be honest, we've got our own version of distractions, like fiddling with the radio or trying to remember which pill we forgot to take that morning, or thinking about what on earth we were supposed to buy at the store. For me, it was the GPS. I used to have one of those old ones that suctioned onto the windshield and barked at me in a robotic voice. It once told me to turn left now in the middle of a highway. Let's just say I didn't, and we stopped being friends after that. But the point is, anything that pulls your mind off the road, even for a second, can make you feel overwhelmed. So I made a new rule for myself. I set up everything before I turn on the engine. GPS programmed, phone on silent, seat adjusted, mirrors checked. That way, when I start driving, my only job is driving. Feels good to keep it simple. I also started keeping a little sticky note on my dashboard. Nothing fancy, just a reminder that says, one thing at a time. Because when your brain's juggling too many things, it's easy to miss something important, like that car in your blind spot or the kid chasing a ball across the street. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds like common sense. And it is. But sometimes the most important things are the ones we forget to actually do. We get comfortable, we get used to our routines, and then one day something slips. I'm just here to help you catch it before it does. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that often gets overlooked. Emotional confidence. Not your physical ability, not your vision or reflexes, but that little voice in your head that whispers, "Can I still do this?" Because here's the truth. Even if your body's in good shape, if your mind isn't sure, you're going to hesitate. And in driving, hesitation can be just as dangerous as overconfidence. I remember one day I pulled up to a busy intersection, and for a split second I froze. There were cars, pedestrians, bikes, you name it. My palms were sweaty. I started second-guessing myself. Should I go now? Wait? What if I'm too slow? That was the day I realized it wasn't just about being physically ready to drive. I needed to feel mentally in control too. So I started easing myself back in. I didn't hit the freeway right away or tackle big city intersections. I started small, just local roads, low traffic times, places I knew like the back of my hand. And every time I finished a drive without a hitch, I felt a little more confident. Like, hey, I've still got it. Sometimes we forget that it's okay to practice driving again, just like anything else. Nobody would expect you to jump back into tennis after 10 years without hitting a few balls around first, right? Same goes here. There's no shame in warming up your confidence. Now, if you're someone who feels nervous every time you're behind the wheel, let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with that. Nerves just mean you care. They mean you're thinking. And being cautious is never a bad thing when you're driving. Just don't let the nerves talk you out of doing something you're still perfectly capable of doing. I want to share something a friend told me that stuck with me. You don't have to stop driving just because you're older. You just have to drive smarter. And that's really what this is all about. Making adjustments, paying attention, giving yourself permission to change how you drive without giving it up entirely. And listen, if you've already given up your car and you're feeling like I did, left out, frustrated, maybe even a little invisible, I want you to know you're not alone. I've been there. And it's okay to want to reclaim that little piece of freedom. Because at the end of the day, driving isn't just about transportation. It's about freedom, independence, dignity. Being able to visit a friend when you feel like it, or go to the store without asking for a ride, or just go for a drive because the sunset looks too beautiful to miss. I believe we owe it to ourselves to hold on to that freedom as long as we safely can. You know, after everything we've talked about so far, listening to your body, staying sharp with your vision, cutting down distractions, and building confidence, there's one more piece of the puzzle that really ties it all together. And it's something a lot of people overlook because, well, it's not flashy or exciting, but it might just be the most important thing of all: staying physically active. Yep, good old-fashioned movement, not marathons or mountain climbing, just regular, gentle exercise that keeps your body flexible, your joints limber, and your mind clear. You'd be surprised how much of a difference it makes when you can turn your neck easily to check that blind spot, or when your hands don't cramp up from holding the steering wheel for too long. I started doing some light stretching in the mornings, just 10 minutes. A little walking around the block, a bit of yoga when I'm feeling ambitious, and chair yoga when I'm not. Even simple things like standing on one leg while brushing my teeth to improve my balance. And let me tell you, the first time I didn't have to grab the door handle to get out of the car because my knees felt strong enough, that felt like a win. We don't often think of driving as something physical, but it is. You're twisting, turning, checking mirrors, pressing pedals. And if your body's stiff or achy, that can make everything from parking to merging on the highway feel 10 times harder than it needs to be. It's like tuning up a car. You keep the engine humming so it doesn't stall on you when you need it most. We've got to treat ourselves the same way. A bit of movement each day to keep our engines running smooth. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying everyone has to drive forever. There is a time when giving up the keys makes sense, and that's okay too. But what I am saying is that decisions should come from you, from your awareness, your comfort level, and your health. Not just from fear, pressure, or assumptions about what it means to age. Because let's face it, people have a lot of opinions about what we should and shouldn't do after a certain age. As if turning 70 means you automatically lose your sense of direction or forget how to parallel park. Please. I know folks in their 80s who drive better than half the teenagers out there. So if you're someone who's been feeling that pressure from family, from friends, or maybe even from your own inner voice, I want you to take a breath and really ask yourself, do I feel safe? Do I feel in control? Do I still enjoy it? If the answer is yes, then let's do everything we can to keep that going. If the answer is no, that's okay too, but make sure it's coming from you. That's the key. And for those who have already given up the keys but are still feeling that pang of regret, like I did, remember that independence comes in many forms. There's more than one road to freedom, even if it's not one you're driving on anymore. It might be carpooling with a neighbor, joining a community shuttle service, or using ride apps with a bit of tech help from the grandkids. Trust me, they'll be thrilled to teach you, and you'll get a little bonding moment in the process. And hey, sometimes getting dropped off and picked up has its perks. No parking battles, no gas costs, and no stress in traffic. That's a silver lining if I ever saw one. But if you're still behind the wheel, or hoping to get back there, let me just say this. Don't let the fear of what if steal your joy. Don't let one forgetful moment or a missed turn convince you that you're done. Everyone has off days. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is how you respond. You take the time to reflect, to adjust, and to keep learning. And that's not just safe driving, that's wisdom in action. So to wrap this all up in a neat little bow, because I know I've talked your ear off today, here's what I want you to remember. You can keep driving safely after 70. You just have to stay aware, stay honest with yourself, and take care of the body and mind that are doing the driving. Make adjustments where needed, ask for help when you need it, and trust yourself enough to know when to say, "Yes, I've still got this," or, "Okay, it's time for something new." Because either way, you're not losing independence. You're choosing how to live it. And if no one's told you this today, let me be the first. I'm proud of you. It takes strength to face these decisions, to stay curious, and to keep showing up for life with humor and heart. So whether you're behind the wheel, in the passenger seat, or just figuring out your next move, I hope you feel empowered, not discouraged. You've earned that right. If this video struck a chord with you, I'd love to hear your story. Have you thought about giving up your car? Did you already go through it? Share your experience in the comments. We learn so much from each other when we open up. And if you enjoyed this chat, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and stick around for more honest conversations about life, aging, and all the beautiful messiness in between. Here's to living your best life at any age, on any road. You've got this.